Yeah, maybe I shouldn't title the name of a video "Be Racist," but um, I wanted to title it that way because I wanted something that would spark an immediate response, whether it was rage or guilt or "dude, you're stupid" or "what the hell is he talking about" or any kind of response, because I want to add to role playing, and this is an absolute positive addition to the role playing community. I'm not here to start some kind of argument or anything like that. So, if you're intent on a rage building, this is the wrong video for you. What I mean by be racist is that uh, I believe that as gamers, and I'm guilty of this far more than a little bit, is that we lose sight of the fact that one of the greatest elements that we can use in our games is race. It is extremely easy and efficient descriptor, and also allows us to. It's an easy identifier, and it allows us to expand our gaming world so that we're not always stuck with trying to make descriptions and go through a whole long song and dance when we're trying to describe something. So, first of all, let's lay some ground rules down. Um, when at first you don't succeed, try again, right? And what I mean by that is sometimes people we can be afraid to hit the point of race because we feel that if we do it wrong, it will offend someone, and I don't want to do it again or do it at all for fear of that. And I take a different approach. I say, go for it, and if you make a mistake, you say, I'm sorry, you learn from it, and then you add to those skills that you already have. So if you're playing in a game and you misrepresent, let's say, someone who is a Hasidic Jew, and that person says, you know what, I really take offense to that. That's not how we are. And then you sit down and look them in the eye and go, you know what, I had no idea. You tell me, because I want to learn. You show me how it's done. So, but let's break this down into a logical progression of for role playing. Just like you're getting a splat book. You open up the book. It has descriptors in it. So, what kind of descriptors are we going to use, right? Well, first of all, let's separate racial genetics from racial cultures. Okay, so let's just start with the genetics. Um, we have ourselves, and I'm going to use a lot of generalizations. So again, as always, just sorry if I offend, but just going to use those. So you have genetics. You have stereotypical African genetics: darker skin, fuller lips, wider nose. You have Far Eastern Asian genetics, slitted eyes, epicanthic folds, what we consider quote unquote a yellowish tinge to skin. I don't know where we get that from. Um, Darker, straighter hair. You have yourselves the Nordic look: blue eyes, blonde hair, and I'm being very stereotyped. You pick your stereotypes, right? Latino stereotypes, um, Middle European stereotypes, your Middle Eastern and Indian stereotypes. You pick your stereotypes, okay? You use those, but remove the culture that is attached to. So, player characters, you're playing classic D&D, you're playing some 5th edition, they go into a tavern, and the game master says, hey, you see a black guy at the bar, there is an Asian woman serving drinks, there is a Nordic looking gentleman sitting in the corner who's playing sitting in the corner, he's playing with a guy with darts. The guy with darts is a short look Latino looking gentleman, but they are all from the same culture. Okay, so you can use the same culture and use different racial types, and this can even extend to your non-human races. Who says every elf has to look like, an emancipated, tall white dude? Doesn't have to be. Add more females, add more races. You can have black elves and Asian elves and Latino elves and Nordic elves and Filipino elves and Eskimo elves, and they can all be the same racial, be different racially, a broad racial range, but still have the same culture. And a side point to that is, imagine, if you will, say a racial stereotype, but it's just a simple portion of that racial stereotype added across the board. Let me explain this. Let's say you want to do a classic Celtic Viking style game or something, and this is the land that they're from, and you want to describe this culture as being from these are Highland people with freckles and red hair. But you want to add a huge amount of diversity, and you want to separate it out of real world cultures and races. So you can have Asian, black, white, Latino, Filipino, you break these things down, but they all tend to have more of a red hair, freckles, and green eyes. And that would be so cool, where you have, an Asian woman with green eyes and reddish hair, but she still has her, other than the eye color and hair, she still has her classic, Japanese or Chinese or Mongolian or Thai or Filipino look to her. Same with the other ones, right? So mixing races and cultures is cool. Now here's another idea, is to use culture specific, Earth, modern day Earth or ancient earthen cultures, and mix the races inside of them. So you can have an African cultured tribe with different races, a ancient Japanese cultured people, but they are different races. Same thing with, you can have an ancient Nordic culture, maybe a Viking culture, but the races are different. I think it would be awesome. I believe White Wolf's Exalted used a very anime style Japanese culture, but added many, many races into it to have a larger mosaic of impressions. And of course, this allows you to have NPCs that, as a game master or storyteller, to give a greater tapestry of NPCs, give them a larger look, tall, short, black, white, scars and verbal things, and then have a visual aspect to that as well. And then this will spawn maybe some of your players to go, you know what, I want to play an Asian gay dude. That's what I want to play. I want my knight to be Asian looking, but he's gay, but he's a knight from from this Middle European style thing. Now, of course, if you're playing a historical, you want to play something that's historically accurate, then of course that's going to be that's something different, right? If you're playing classic Euro Britain, it's not going to work. If you want to play someone Middle Eastern, maybe you might be able to fit them more into something like that. But classic African or Asian, that's not going to work. But mixing races and cultures, and please do it. I'm no expert, but you've got my permission. Use black people in your game. They do not all have to be African American. They do not all have to be tribal and be barefoot with Zulu spears. You can add different cultural aspects of your game in there, and not have to, well, I want my character to be different, so I have to play Dragonborn or Tiefling or Drow Elf or something of that nature. But imagine Drow Elves, black skin, light or dark skin, light colored hair, but give them different racial features so that at least they seem different. Maybe a Drow family has Asian features and another one has Africanized features, but they have literally black skin and white hair, or silver hair, or blonde hair. or gray skin, black skin, purple skin, dark blue, midnight blue skin. Yes, all those things. So you use those elements, add those little aspects in there, be more racially diverse, be more racist in your in your games. And I know I'm being silly on that fact, but make it a positive thing. Add that in there, and don't apologize for it. Make a mistake, F it. Okay, you know what? Is that offensive to anybody at the table? Okay, good. It's not great. We're going to keep moving on. Hey, are you saying that this is something that I'm making that's too much of a stereotype? Sorry. Okay, let's move on. This is a somewhat of a video response to a thread about sexism in the games, and you know how childish and how grognardy some players can get about females being in role-playing games, which I think is just so stupid. But I can only speak for myself as far as race goes, and I think we are missing the boat in our role-playing games, because just because Dungeons and Dragons maybe have a tangent to J.R.R. Tolkien and Middle Earth does not mean that black people and Asian people and Latinos cannot exist in the world. I'm going to end this on something that I find hugely appalling. It's annoyed me for years now, and it always rears its ugly head when it comes to racial things, and that is that when the media uses race, and the people that are the media has attempted to make changes in racial relationships, and the public itself is upset that they're making those changes. Perfect example is Michael Clark Duncan played the Kingpin in the Daredevil movie, and in the comic books, Kingpin seems to be a white guy, big giant, big old sumo wrestler style white guy. Michael Clark Duncan, big, tall, muscular, may rest in peace, black guy. Hate mail. People, how can he be black? He's black. Has no bearing on playing the character. Same thing with Nick Fury. Samuel Jackson playing Nick Fury. Nick Fury's not black. He was never black in the comic books. Okay. Idris Elba playing Heimdall, that's watches the Bifrost Bridge. If you're unfamiliar with Norse mythology, there is Heimdall, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, who is a guardian of the Bifrost Bridge, the Rainbow Bridge that goes to Asgard, and he stands watch while Thor goes about his adventures, and he sees all, knows all. And Idris Elba, a British black actor, was hired to play that role. Well, there's no black people in Asgard and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, there are black people because they just cast one. So it's a little too late now. This is comic book stuff. Thor isn't a real person. Yes, it may have come from Norse mythology, but Thor isn't a Norseman. Thor is a comic book character portraying a Norseman. And in the movies, he's not even a real Norse god. He's a person that lives in another race. So yes, there are Asians and blacks and whites if they want them as a racial type, but they are all of the same culture. There was even a racial hatred coming from people when Marvel Comics said that the first Captain America was a black man, created from basically a version of the super soldier serum for like the Tuskegee experiment, when they injected a bunch of black subjects with venereal diseases and wanted to see what the effects would be and the effects of radiation. And when Marvel said that the first Captain America was actually black, there was hatred everywhere. I mean, it was just like, what the hell? There's no way. Blah, 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 blah. That's effing stupid. And and I'm sitting back like, really? Are we that close-minded? Are people who are supposedly open-minded as far as science fiction and fantasy, are we that close-minded when it comes to race? And not even culture, when it comes to race. Just because someone looks different, there's this instant of hate And yes, someone could make the argument, well, it's changing the race of a character that I've known for so long. But would Superman really be that different if he was Asian? He'd still be Superman. You could make a Superman story where he landed in China or Japan or something. He'd still be a Superman character. Now you might say, well, he's not living in middle America. He's not living in Kansas. Why wouldn't an Asian be living in those places? You can always do that. So anyway, separate race from culture, and kind of getting a little ranty on the end here. As always, create, don't destroy. Create more opportunities to use race in your game. It's a very simple tool for creating NPCs, for making something unique for your player. You can have 3 players play fighters in a 5th edition game, and just by changing the racial makeup, changing the sex, add more females. Add more females into your game. I know that there's a test used for movies called the Bechdel test. Bechdel test. I'm just coming off the top of my head. I don't remember the name of it. It's a very simple thing. It's not very scientific, but the idea is that in your movie, are there any females, and do they have speaking parts? If there's more than one female, do the 2 females ever talk to each other? And if those 2 females talk to each other, are they talking about something other than another man or a relationship, right? And most movies fail that simple test. Is there a female? Do they have speaking lines? Are there 2 females, and do they speak to each other? And are they speaking about something other than another guy in the movie? Are they having a regular conversation? And you could say 99% of every other movie involves at least one guy, and they are having conversations, and those conversations have nothing to do with relationships. It's about money and power and intimidation and fighting and fears and sadness. And females need to have just as much of a push, if not a greater push. I know there was a backlash when Battlestar Galactica was remade, and they made Starbuck a female, and people were like, oh my God, you can't do that. And look at it. Katie Sackhoff, everybody's saying she needs to be the next Captain Marvel for another Marvel movie, the next Marvel standalone movie. So people's perceptions change, and it's always a good thing. So anyway, as always, DBJ, create, don't destroy, use race, use culture, and I'll end it there. Actually, I'll make this a different video because something just sparked in my head, so I'll make another video about it. So anyway, DBJ, thanks for participating, thanks for commenting, thanks for supporting me, and I'm out.